feels like a lifetime ago the day I first saw Fabian on one of my many walks around the local park. He had a limp, and a closer look with my video camera showed a right foot that was bent out of shape, turned inwards with long talons held limply together. I didn't expect it at the time, but it would be the start of a long friendship. It would not only be an opportunity to learn more about and appreciate the complex lives of crows, but it would also become an incredibly meaningful and unforgettable part of my life. Crows are remarkably intelligent and loyal animals who form loving bonds with each other, but also with humans. They are famous for being able to recognize and remember human faces for a long, long time, and also being able to transfer this information to other crows. They can recognize people even when a person is wearing completely different clothes, a hat, or gets a different haircut. That's why herding one crow will probably mean you'll be harassed by a ton of them every time you pass by the same area for months and months to come. This ability, however, also allows them to remember and bond with humans they consider friendly, a connection that can last a crow's lifetime and even into future generations of offspring. When I first noticed him that day, I remember pondering what the best course of action was, whether I should try and help in some way or bring him to a rehab center. After some more observation, I decided to let him be, partially because he otherwise seemed healthy and energetic, partially because it looked like an old injury that would likely not have been helped by human intervention, and partially because it would have been next to impossible to try and catch an intelligent, observant animal that is able to fly. As the weeks passed, I never purposely went looking for him on my walks. We would encounter each other regularly on our daily routines. For him, that routine involved scavenging, socializing, and otherwise hanging out in his local territory before returning home at night to a roost in the east. I don't remember the first time I offered him some food. I do remember being motivated by care and concern for him, worried about how he was faring with his foot. I would soon realize that it barely hindered him at all. Regardless, he was the only crow I could successfully recognize from the hundreds of crows that frequented the area. He, of course, never needed any help recognizing me. We drifted in and out of each other's stories. I got regular glimpses of him, giving him some peanuts here and there, but otherwise respecting his space and observing quietly from afar. I have two particularly vivid memories of that first year of knowing him, before I started deliberately looking out for him on my walks. The first of these memories was a time I was walking down a quiet street towards the local park, only to be interrupted by a crow landing on the overhang above me, watching me curiously. This was the first time I remember him seeking me out deliberately, recognizing me from a distance and coming to find me. I gave him a peanut or two, which he happily gobbled up. The second memory was from a particularly miserable gray day. Rain was pouring down from the sky, and I could barely hold my video camera under my umbrella without it getting soaked. From a far distance, two crows flew towards me and landed on the street sign above me. One look at the foot of one of them told me that this was Fabian along with a companion, and I put down some peanuts for them as they jumped around in the rain, shaking water periodically from their feathers. Over time, I recognized the second crow he was usually with, one that was slightly smaller and slimmer. For a long time, I assumed that the second crow was a grown child from another earlier clutch, since it is common for crows to stick with their parents even after they reach adulthood. However, I soon realized that this was likely his mate. They would spend time together, groom each other, and take turns keeping an eye on me as the other gathered the bits of food I might leave for them. It is next to impossible to discern the sex of crows just by eye, with the only hint being their size, as male crows are slightly bigger than their female counterparts. It is mostly through this and later observations of their parenting that I presumed, though I can never fully confirm it, that he is a male crow. We developed a sort of mutual respect, and when his fledglings from 2022 were first leaving their nest, he allowed me to be nearby, a rare privilege, watching the little ones as they hopped and cawed and explored the big new world around them under their parents' watchful eye. I'll make another video about Fabian and June, who I ended up calling his mate. I was lucky enough to observe the children from 2 separate years growing up. Part of his relative ease around me, enough to allow me to be fairly close to his young children, was from my effort to respect his space and boundaries. Whenever I left some food, I would avert my gaze and step back, so that he would feel safe enough to retrieve it. I would never try to approach too fast or too suddenly, understanding his instinctively cautious nature. But he would let me hang out with him and his family on my walks, letting me share his space as his children grew up and he grew older. After a few months of his happy routine we fell into, I had to leave the area for several months. During the chaos of that time, I stopped thinking about him very much, since I just assumed that after such a long time away, I would never get the chance to see him again. I returned to the area where I first met him after many months of absence. I didn't even think he was around anymore, so I was not looking for him. I just assumed that our brief crossing of paths had diverged the last time we had seen each other. I was roaming around that day when a crow landing on a branch right above me startled me. Very few wild crows get this close unless they are aggressively protecting a nest or a baby. I instinctively stepped back, well aware that it was nesting season and I could be intruding on vulnerable fledglings. Strangely enough though, this particular crow made no move to call out a warning or attack me. It simply sat there watching me, and as I started walking away, the same crow followed me, hopping from branch to branch close to me, eventually landing on a log right in front of me. Suddenly something clicked in my head, and my hands almost shook in amazement as I grabbed my video camera and zoomed in on the crow's right foot. Sure enough, it was twisted and bent inwards in a very familiar way. Fabian continued watching me, observing me curiously and waiting to see what I would do. I was astonished. Not only did he recognize me after all these months apart, but he also came to find me, something I'm still amazed by to this day. After some desperate digging in my backpack, I found the squashed remains of a fruit bar I had long forgotten about. I placed some crumbs on a rock. He perked up and hopped forward in delight, just like old times. After this encounter, I began deliberately looking out for him on my walks, checking up on him and June. It wasn't long before we started nesting again, and I had the joy of watching another year's offspring fledge and grow up. I've spent a lot of time with him and gotten to know him, as much as a human can get to know a wild crow. He's playful, he's mischievous, and he's very intelligent. I've seen him pick up some of the food I leave for him, fly away to a nearby field, and quickly dig a hole and place the food in. Then he would hop around, grab a piece of grass or rock, and cover his little treasure trove for later. I've seen him lead his fledglings around, teaching them about the world. He would reach for a branch or twig, pick it up, put it back down, and the youngsters would follow him and mimic his actions. During a particularly bad heat wave a while ago, I put out a little lunchbox with some ice cubes in it, hoping it would help cool them down since it's not easy being a bird in all black in the middle of a hot, sunny day. He was absolutely intrigued by this and spent some time tugging on the lunchbox, investigating it, and eventually just throwing it to the ground to see what would happen. At the time of my making this video, I have known him for over 2 years. To this day, whenever I go to the local park, as long as he is around, he flies to me to say hi. He often brings his family members with him, many of whom recognize me as well. I don't always have the time to go there every day, and there have been times I've been away from the area for a few weeks. However, no matter how long, whenever I return, he is always there waiting. I have learned so much during my time spent with Fabian and his family, and my appreciation for crows has only grown. I've amassed hundreds of videos of them, videos I am still in the process of organizing and editing. Future videos of crows, including videos of Fabian and his family, are to come. But I wanted to create this one first, to share his backstory and the unlikely connection we have created. It is a wonder and privilege to share his story, and through him, a small glimpse into the incredible and often underappreciated lives of the crows around us.